Good morning, Predicted Trades family. Hope everybody's doing well. So today for prep, we're going to start on a daily time frame, just to look at the structure that we find ourselves in. So as you can see, we got our lows in October, and we started to rally up above those previous lows. We pulled back in November, set higher lows. We pulled back in December and set higher lows, consecutively higher lows. We did it one more time in January as we started to get to these daily moving averages and the trend line from last year's highs, setting a yet again higher low in January. That led us up, and we started to fire that two-day squeeze. And then, of course, as soon as it starts to fire, we reverse right back down. We had a nice hold last week of the daily 200 and started a bounce, which was yet another higher low. But yesterday's selling took us down below last week's low. And once that gave out, we went straight to those January lows. So we are testing the last consecutively higher low since last week's low gave out. So the last one was in January. If this January support starts to give out, which is basically 38.85 up to about 39.05. Oh, sorry, actually me. Yep. If we start to give out that zone, January's low, then we want to target down to the December low, the next zone below. Let's zoom in just so you guys can get a little clearer picture. So we've made it down to the bottom of a daily squeeze and to this zone from January. Again, it spans from 38.85 up to 39.06. And when we zoom in, we'll see that the overnight lows got down to tap that 38.85. So we have fully engaged this zone, and we're trying to hold. We have this daily squeeze that could provide us support. Just like the sell-off in December, we got down to the bottom of a daily squeeze, and just as it was starting to fire, we reversed back up. Just to say, when these daily squeezes appear, as we're setting lows, it can cause a nice bounce. Basically, it's a daily Bollinger Band giving us support. So overall for today, it's going to be, can we hold this zone? Can we start to do any kind of recovery bounce back to the daily 200? And where are we going to close? If we were to give out this zone and close below it, then it sets up for next week to likely drop down to those December lows. And this zone below, which is 37.50 up to 37.92. Just extend this over since it could become in play soon. So let's zoom on down to our normal time frames for prep. And now that we zoom in, you can see this zone and how we got right down to the bottom of that zone and at that 38.85 and tapped that daily squeeze bottom. Now we're on a nice bounce. Pre-market coming back up near where we closed yesterday. Right now we're only down about 10 points on ES. So before I get going too far into where could we be headed today, we have some employment data coming out at 8:30. We also have non-farm payroll. I'm surprised that they don't have it listed here. Normally, non-farm payroll is the first Friday of every month, but since February shortened month, they do it the second Friday in March, which is today. So we do have NFP coming out. It's going to be very interesting. As some of us were saying, we've heard rumors that it could be bad news on the NFP, which could end up being decent news for the market. So we want to see how that 8:30 data drop goes, and we'll probably see it live while we're in prep here. Overall, it's can we hold this zone? Can we hold that 38.85? We already got down and hit it pre-market, so now it's our pre-market low. If we start to give that out, we've got a key level at 38.78.5 as well. So you can basically make a little zone, micro zone, of that 38.78.5, 38.85. That could provide support. We also have the second daily Keltner to the downside right in there, in between those two numbers. Should that start to give out, that 38.78.5, we want to target down to 38.55, 38.43, and 38.25-ish will be the third Keltner to the downside. But if we can hold, we've arrived right back to January lows. If we can hold this zone that we've tested overnight and bounced at, hold that 38.85, maybe even just hold 3900 in VWAP, we could get a nice push back up to retest that 39.22, very critical level. Basically sold off to it and kind of chopped around it for the last 30 minutes. If we can clear that 39.22, target up to 39.41, 39.50, where the daily 200 sits, maybe even up to 39.71, where the daily 8 sits, and 39.80, which was kind of the support we were holding on Tuesday's sell-off. On Wednesday we held it and started to push. We even got that little push yesterday in the morning up to that 40.20 before selling off. So those are targets to the upside, targets to the downside on ES for today. We don't really have any squeezes in play right now except that daily squeeze that we are down at the bottom of. Oh, I'm sorry, it's a 2-day squeeze. I misspoke this whole time. So we're at a 2-day squeeze bottom. Let's move on in Q. Got down below 12,000. Kind of at it right now, resisting it a little bit. And NQ made it down to the daily 50 and daily 200, which sit at basically 11,950. You could say 11,930 up to 11,950, little 20-point range, which includes some of the overnight lows and that daily 50, daily 200. As long as we can hold that, looking for us to get back above 12,000, try to rally back to 12,100, and maybe even these daily moving averages above, which span the daily 8 at 12,125, the daily 15 at 12,140, the daily 21 at 12,167. So those are kind of upside targets to try to get back up to the support that we gave out yesterday. If we do roll over and lose that 11,930 to 11,950, we want to target down to 11,900, which is the bottom of a little 30-minute squeeze. That's starting to fire on NQ. And if we lose 11,900, target down to this 11,832 and a half, the low from a couple of weeks ago, last Thursday, sorry. And should that give out, then down to 11,800, 11,750 at the bottom of a daily squeeze. On ready. Ready made it down to the bottom of this 2-day squeeze, the bottom of which is about 1810 up to 1820. Overnight low at 1805, so let's see if we can hold that 1805, 1810 on any dips. If we can get back above 1825, looking for ready to get back up to the daily 200 at 1833. Maybe even push beyond back up to like 1850, 1860 to get back to the base that we gave out yesterday. If we do roll over and lose at 1810, 1805, target down to 1800, and 1785 is the third Keltner to the downside. YM. Wow, got down to 32,000 pre-market. Pre-market low, 31,994. So it's all about, can YM hold this 32,000 back above 32,100 right now? So a little 100-point zone. Let's see if we can hold. If it starts to give out, we want to target down to 31,800, 31,725, where the third Keltner, the downside, sits. But if we can hold up this 32,100, looking to get up through pre-market highs and where we closed around 32,225. And if we can clear that, play it up to 32,450, where the daily 200 sits. And that psych level 32,500. On to Apple. So overall, all week long, I've been saying, after our sell-off on Tuesday, I just want to see 151 and 150 hold. And yesterday, we got right down to 151, 150, and it held. We slipped it a little pre-market. We got down to my next key level around 149. But we're right back above 150 and in between 150 and 151. So let's see if 150 can hold. If not, we want to target that pre-market low down to 149. We have the daily 21, daily 15 in between that 150, 149. So we have some liquidity support here, and we're still at the bottom of a 4-hour squeeze that is still intact. We went from pretty much the top of a 4-hour squeeze, almost got there yesterday, and rolled down to the bottom. So as long as we can hold this 150, we're holding that 4-hour squeeze, and we can see a reversal back up. If we can clear 151, would love to see us get back up to 152, kind of the base we were trying to hold all week. And then up to our zone above at 153.8, near yesterday's highs. If we start to lose 150, you want to play down to 149 and then 147.5, where the daily 200 sits. That will fire the 4-hour squeeze to the downside. Amazon. All in all, holding up well. It's all about, can it hold 92? Pre-market low at 91.8. So you got a 20-cent zone of support at 91.8, 92. If that can hold, looking for us to get up to clear 93. 93.5 where the daily 8 sits. Up to 94.4 where the daily 15 sits. Maybe up to 95 at the top of a 4-hour squeeze, and back at the daily 50, daily 21. Kind of what we sold off from yesterday. That would be a full recovery to engulf back up. So we'll see. But if we lose that 92, 91.8, we want to play down to 91. Last week's low, 90.4. And past that, just, down to 90, 89.5, 89.3, where the second Keltner, the downside, sits. Google. Overall, it's sold back to its daily moving averages and trying to hold. Kind of the same thing on Google. Pre-market low 91.8, trying to hold 92. So same levels on Google and Amazon, funny enough. Let's see if we can hold that 91.8, 92. We want to, if we can hold there, play it back up to 93 where the daily 8 sits. 93.75 where the daily 21 sits, 94 where the daily 50 sits. If we start to lose that 91.8, play it down to 91, the first Keltner to the downside. Pass that down to 90 and 89, which is near the lows of a couple of weeks ago. Moving on to Meta. Meta, holding up very well, still above 180, basically just sold back to the daily 8, which is right near that 180. So basically, see if we can hold 180 in that daily 8. We could see an interesting push in Meta today. I mean, it's been very, very strong. Got up near the third Keltner and now sold back to the first daily moving average, the daily 8. Let's see if they're going to rotate back into it now that we're back down to this 180 in an attempt to load up to run back to 190 and maybe even make it to that 200. Otherwise, if we start to lose 180, you want to play it down to 175, where the daily 21 sits. 176 is where the daily 15 sits. So $1 zone of liquidity to target if we give out 180 on Meta. Meta might be a really good candidate for today, folks. Either it's going to try to lead back up, or it's going to play a catch-up trade and slip back to the mean if the market remains weak and there's still selling going on. Microsoft basically making it back to about 250, 251. Let's see if we can hold there. If we start to lose 250, you want to target down to 248, where the daily 50 in the first Keltner, the downside sits. And if we lose 250, you want to target down to 245, 243 and a half, the low from last week. If we can hold 250, looking for Microsoft to push back up to 252 and a half, where the daily 200 sits, 254 where the daily 21 sits, and that psych level 255. Netflix definitely gave out yesterday, did not hold that 306. Talked about that a couple of days ago in prep. If we can hold that 306, you want to try taking longs off of it. Worked for a couple of days, but then it gave out that 306, and as I said a couple of days in prep, it'll go straight down to 300. The low from yesterday around 295, 294.8. So let's see if that 20-cent zone from 294.8 to 295 can hold. If not, you want to target down to 292.5, 290. At that point, we're past third Keltner. But if we can hold up that 294.8, 295, we'd want to try to go long, back up through 298 and up to 300. And if we can clear that, then back up to that 305, 306. NVIDIA. And again, it only sold off back to the daily 8 and trying to hold near there and above this 232. Pre-market low at about 232 and a half. So let's see if we can hold 232, 232 and a half on any dips. If we can hold there and start to get going, we want to target up to 234 where the daily 8 sits, 235.15 pre-market high. And if we can clear that, maybe back up to 238, 240, kind of where we were holding a base yesterday. If we start to give out 232, you want to target down to 230, 228 where the daily 15 sits, 225 is where the daily 21 sits, near last week's low of about 223. Whoop. QQQ. Sold all the way back to about 292 at close yesterday. Overnight lows down near 290 and a half, daily 200 at 290. So, can we hold 290, 290 and a half? Currently at about 292 and a half. So as long as we can hold on any dips, I'm looking to play up through 293, about where we closed, up to 294, and if we can keep going, the daily 8, daily 15, and daily 21 are all sitting at basically 296 and a quarter, very tight and stacked. That's also kind of the base that we were trying to hold, 296 and a quarter. So that's the target to get back up to test if we do see a recovery pop. Let's go on to SPY. Oh man, yep, SPY made it down near 390. Tapped it last night, I dropped a little message, and overnight got down to my next key level at 388 and a half. Overnight low near 388.12, just call it 388. So can we hold 388, 388 and a half? We are down near second Keltner, which sits at 389. Currently we're up at about 390.8. So, can we hold 390? If not, can we hold that 388.5, 388? If we can hold either of those, looking to push back up to 392, 392.5, 393 and a quarter, where the daily 200 sits. If we can get anywhere past that, up to 395, 395.8. But if we start to lose 390 or 388.5, we want to target down to 385. 383 is the third Keltner to the downside. The next big key level past that would be 381.5. Not necessarily saying we get there today. SPY is at the bottom of a 2-day squeeze, which the top of that 2-day squeeze is right at that 388.5. So let's see if that squeeze bottom can hold. Let's see if we can recover back up to test some of those daily moving averages. Tesla has slipped below its daily squeeze. Pre-market low down near 169.5. If we lose that 169.5, I do have some key levels at 167.5, 166, where the daily 50 sits. Below that, you want to target down to 160, 158, where the third Keltner, the downside, sits. But if we can hold pre-market low or hold this zone and the daily 50 that is just below pre-market low, if we can hold there and start to recover, we want to play back up to pre-market high around to 175. And if we can clear 175, back up to 179.8, 180. And finally, VIX. Cleared 20 yesterday and shot all the way up to 23. Overnight highs near 23.5. Currently sitting just below 23. And we have the top of a daily and 2-day squeeze, which spans from about 23 up to about 24.5. The daily 200 sits up at about 24.2. So if we're going to get more selling today, we're likely going to hold above 22.5, get back above 23, clear that pre-market high of 23.5, and come up to test this 24.2 daily 200 and 24.5 key level in the top of this daily squeeze. But if we're going to see some recovery bounce, we're likely going to reject 23 or 23.33, roll back over to test pre-market lows near 22.5, and if we can maybe get a stronger recovery bounce to engulf part of yesterday, the VIX would likely get below this 22.5 and start to come back to test like 21.5, the recent high it sold off from, maybe even back to like 21 and these daily moving averages. So that's it for prep today. Let's see what we're going to get. It is now 8:30. Let's see what this reaction is. And look at that. Quick little dip, and we're pushing for new pre-market highs. So we'll have to see what we get today. That daily 200 up at 39.50 definitely in play. Even though we're getting a good reaction, they could still bring it back to 3900 for a test. But now we've got a number of wicks, including that the wick from this econ data, this jobs data, got down near, what is that wick? About 3890. So 3890 up to 3900, very good zone of support right now. Man, we are pushing right up to 3940 almost up to that daily 50. This is why yesterday at close, a number of us were picking up calls. Yes, the selling yesterday was aggressive, but they sold into this NFP and jobs data after a very strong run up, after some very bullish momentum. They used one day to sell it down into that econ data, catch everything at a discount, so we could see an interesting day back up. We want to think like back to October. They sold into econ data that dumped even further and then took off and ripped for like a 2 ATR day off of those October lows. So we just rejected that 3941.5. These key levels are very important, folks. We just popped from 3900 up to 3941. A range has been set. So now we're going to play that range in each direction, right? If we get a quick pop, we're coming right back to this 39.22. If we get a quick pop, it's to test that pre-market high. We probably want to load back short. And if we get down near those pre-market lows, we want to test out that long. So, good luck today, folks. Let's it's Friday, you know. Let's not try to size up and do anything crazy. Let's all size down, have some fun today. I like to say, don't try to make or break your week on a Friday. You should be treating, you know, every trade pretty much the same. That's how I like to do it. It's exactly what you want to try to do, especially when we get days like yesterday, right? We hit the long side at open to the upside. We locked in some profit. And as I always say, whenever we're locking in profit, we need to be looking at the hedge in the other direction. So as we were hitting the top of those squeezes yesterday and that daily 50, daily 21, that 40-20 on ES, you know, saying lock up some profit. Here are some puts that are at B's to keep an eye on. And even if you took them as a hedge, right, if we kept going, you cut it. But that hedge turned into a much bigger trade than the long that we caught, right? We swung those 400s from 50 cents. They got up to $2. We're locking profit. And that's exactly where you want to pick up a hedge. I almost do it like simultaneously. And a lot of times I pick up the put before I even lock the profit. Or I'll have my orders out. Like I had an order out at $2 to lock those 400s. Then I start picking up some puts before the order even hits. So let's just take a quick look down at the 1 minute to see those crazy candles. Okay, yeah. So there you go, folks. The range is set, 3,900 up to 3,941. Looks like we're going to be opening near the top of that range. So, good luck today. Let's be ready to play the upside and some recovery, right? Let's be ready to short back for a retest if we can't break through pre-market high. Overall, we're back above our MA clouds. So if we do get, if we cannot clear pre-market high and we play back short, we want to play back to those MA clouds, which are kind of at 39.20, 39.15 right now. Then if we can't hold there, it's down to 3,900, and that wick from the data down to 38.92 and a half. But if we can hold and take out pre-market high, it's up to 39.50, 39.61, 39.70, 39.77, let's call it 39.78 where the daily 8 sits, and that 39.80. So, good luck today, folks, and we'll see everybody in the chat.